Hey guys, Claire here, and in today's video, we're going to talk about all things Harry and Meghan. Charles and Camilla are currently in Australia, but from a lot of the headlines from the British press, you think Harry and Meghan were the ones that are on tour. And I get it. So far, Charles and Camilla's tour has been very lackluster, which of course leads to the Daily Mail attacking people who refuse to bend a knee and have an air of deference to Charles and Camilla. What else is new? Then we found out that Charles spent less than 10 minutes at a lunch in his honor. Not to mention this video of Camilla looking uninterested. But quite frankly, whenever you see Camilla doing engagements, she rarely looks excited, especially when she's on tour. Camilla seems to like the power, the privilege, the wealth, but she doesn't really want to do the work. And I know a lot of people tend to focus on William and Kate's laziness, but if we really were to pay attention to the amount of engagements that Camilla does, she's right at the bottom as well. Also, seeing royal reporter Chris Shipp appealing to people on Twitter to come see Charles and Camilla. But when you compare this lackluster tour to the crowd sizes for Princess Diana and Harry and Meghan in 2018, I can see why they're so mad and why they continue to write stories about Harry and Meghan. If the king and consort are unable to bring the sparkle, the drama, you gotta talk about Harry and Meghan for that engagement. Also, seeing some of the Australian media poking fun at Charles certainly doesn't help. The Chaser wrote, taxpayer-funded tampons finally arrive in Australia. Yikes. Another one said, imagine how sad we'd be without taxpayer-funded royal trips. For the past few years, the palace and the UK press has made a concerted effort to try to destroy the lives, marriage, and reputations of Harry and Meghan, while also attempting to convince the world that the royals that remain, the quote-unquote working royals, are beloved by many via the 1,000,001 polls that they constantly talk about in the tabloids. But whenever you see the working royals going out there on tour, their engagements, it's always left lacking. So perhaps those polls aren't as accurate. Senator Lydia Thorpe had a few choice words for Charles and Camilla.
Give us our land back. Give us what you stole from us. Our bones, our skulls, our babies, our people. You destroyed our land. Give us a treaty. We want a treaty in this country. You are a genocider. This is not your land. This is not your land. You are not my kids. You are not our kids.
Charles and Camilla chuckling sort of rubbed me the wrong way. And believe me, I get it. It's an awkward situation. And sometimes in awkward situations, all you can do is try to downplay it. So there's that. But generally, I feel like the firm, Charles and Camilla, truly don't care for opposing points of views. Unless you're doting on them and showing them deference, they really have no interest in you whenever you have opposing points of view. Very valid, mind you. They don't want to hear about that. They're not interested in that. That's why you'll see them going to Commonwealth nations, being entertained. Those trips are very expensive, and those nations are the ones who are footing the bill. And they'll come there and smile and read speeches, but they'll never truly apologize for the atrocities committed to many of these nations. They never have. And quite frankly, I doubt that they ever will.
I'd like us to be a republic as well.
So...
Nothing against King Charles.
Yeah, I'm happy for him to come as King of England, but I'd rather he doesn't come as King of Australia.
Yes, I think that's the go.
Yeah, I think so. I would rather that he not be our king.
We don't need a king.
No. So thanks very much. Off you go, Charles.
To be honest, not super excited about it. I think there's a better use of his time, the country's time and money, the UK's time and money, our time and money as well over here.
I want to talk about just royal tours in general, specifically Australia. So far with Charles's tour, there's a lot of reporting about this. What? That was 6 years ago, you weirdos. This is a beautiful example of SEO. How do we bring people in to read more about the current Australia tour? Let's bring up Meghan Markle and bring up some shiz that may or may not be true, probably isn't true, or at least is twisted to be inevitably negative, because people genuinely aren't that excited about Charles and Camilla in Australia. And one of the reasons is their lack of willingness to engage in the conversations that Australians want to have. Australia has been rife because it tends to be a place where somebody performs exceptionally well for the British royal family, but it's not the right person. Recall, it's supposed to be the crown above all else. But very rarely do they operate as a family with that one common goal. I think it's a huge blunder and not changing with the times, because Harry and Meghan's tour was great. Exciting to see a woman of color representing the British royal family. It felt like a time of change, something new coming, and that Harry and Meghan would be such great spokespeople in the Commonwealth countries. But this isn't William and Kate. This wasn't Charles and Camilla. This was the Spare and his wife. The Spare and his wife are not supposed to look better than the person born for the throne. The person that by blood and by birth order is entitled to lead the monarchy. It is so short-sighted to not use periphery members of the royal family and their talents, and instead relying on this idea that one individual can be all the things. But instead of breaking the cycle that saw your father's private secretary leaking on you and your younger brother, no, instead you decided to fall in line, create your own deals with the British media, satiate their need for negative coverage by handing over your brother and his wife so that the coverage of you remains positive. And if they dare step out of line, your lawyers will be calling, despite the whole never complain, never explain. Cool. Harry and Meghan are not the first people to find out that having success on tour is not a good thing if you're not the right person. This was also the case with Charles and Diana in the early 80s. They were newlyweds. They went to Australia and people loved Diana. She was bright and young and beautiful and willing to shake hands and really meet people where they were at. So they would go and meet people on either side of the barriers, and people would audibly groan when they got stuck with Charles. That must have been weird for Diana, because despite being of aristocratic birth, she was Lady Diana Spencer, being aristocratic and being in the monarchy are two very different things, and she did not get training for how to do this. So then she's doing the job seemingly well, but finds out there's a way to do this job too well, and now that's not okay. Even when you are married to the future king, attention on you is still taking away from him. It's been decades. Still, their only answer to someone else being successful on tour is to turn on them and to find reason why that's bad. Here we are. Not sure if that was a great long-term plan.
Not a great long-term plan at all. But I'll always maintain that I truly believe in the long run, it was a blessing in disguise. The way that the palace, scratch that, let's keep it real. The way that Harry's father, Charles, his brother, his stepmother, have used this man as a scapegoat for most of his life, but especially his father, right? Because Camilla can only do as much as Charles would allow her to do, or turns a blind eye to her doing. And we've all known from the countless royal reporters and docuseries that have been done before, Charles engaged in that. Harry himself has told us in Spare, Charles was okay with using Harry to rehabilitate his image after the loss of Princess Diana. But the way that his father has treated him, that stepmother, and in later years his brother, truly despicable. And the way that the UK press in a lot of ways sees this man not as a person, but as a commodity that they feel that they have been and will always be entitled to in some way. Truly unhinged.
And being with the Duke of Sussex, seeing the same guy take the same picture almost every week as we were coming out of a certain restaurant, I said, look, why are you taking the same picture? You must have hundreds of pictures of us. I doubt it's a fashion thing to critique the Duke's clothing on this particular night. Why are you taking the same photo over and over again? And the gentleman just simply replied back to me, this may be the last picture of him alive. And that to me is worth a lot of money.
Like I said, a commodity, and a very lucrative one at that. One of the royal family's greatest assets. Also, the way that they've treated and continue to treat Meghan. The more I learn and observe about that firm, the family, the people within it, especially those towards the top of the hierarchy, I will never, ever be able to look at that institution, the people, the press, the fans in the same way ever again. For a vast majority of my life, well, until Meghan married into that world, I never really paid that much attention to the royal family. I adored Princess Diana because she's Princess Diana. So much about her warmth and beauty was just very captivating. But beyond that, I really didn't care. And now that indifference is gone, replaced with something far more negative. I'm not going to say what I really want to say, how I really want to say it. So let's leave it at that. A former co-star of Meghan talked to Us Weekly. Suits Rachel Harris says that it's great that co-star Meghan happened to find a nice guy. Rachel is one in a long line of people, actual people with names and faces to their claims, actual person who has met her and worked with her, as opposed to another unnamed source. In the article, Rachel says, "What I love about Meghan is that I met her before Suits, and she just wanted to live her dream and be a working actress. She succeeded at that, so it's great that she happened to find a nice guy." Nice guy indeed. And it's wonderful to see so many who recognize the sincerity and warmth of the love and connection between Harry and Meghan.
I wholeheartedly believe that these two
really love each other.
Yeah, and it's quite sweet to see. I'll always be a fan of seeing people in love.
Yes, no, same. I think that has to be the standout strength. You would have to have a gaping chasm where your soul is supposed to be. I don't know where that actually is. Wherever your soul is supposed to be in your body.
That's quite an existential question, actually.
Don't think about it for too long, anyone. If you do not believe their love for each other, I don't know what to tell you, because it is extremely convincing that these two are obsessed with each other, and I will always be a sucker for a romantic story like theirs.
Yeah. Now, I think the other thing that was really fascinating to me is how people can still watch this and think that Meghan is the woman who dragged him out of the royal family, that dragged Harry out of this world that he was desperate to stay in, or he would have otherwise stayed in without her. Because I think if you read much about Harry's story at all, and then watch this documentary too, you'll understand this man preferred to go to war for years than be around the royal family and be the target of the British press.
He took almost any opportunity to leave.
He never, ever wanted to be there. He's hated it for years. He struggled with his mental health since he was a small boy. Like, I think you watch this and you think, yeah, there's no way he was going to end up in this family.
No,
there was no way he wasn't going to leave.
People are kind of deluded if they think Meghan is the reason they left. Harry hated being a royal. That is abundantly clear to me. Like, he really, really hated living in the UK under that kind of press scrutiny and microscope.
And I think it's interesting because people might ask, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You know, she came in here and pulled him out, but he was attracted to an American probably for that very reason, that she didn't know what life was like as a royal, that perhaps subconsciously he knew she was going to show him a different world that he was actually very keen on exploring and learning about. Like, there are so many more layers to it.
Night of the Jack, a famous Halloween event in California, has a display featuring portraits of well-known couples carved into pumpkins. Harry and Meghan's portrait is among the recognizable faces. Trick or treat.
Do you come from a land down under? And by the way, that's still one of the best songs that's ever been written. I never tire of hearing it, and it describes to me, in my head, what you imagine Australia is going to be like before you even get there. It must have driven tens of millions of people to go and visit Australia. So as usual, the great Australian comedians are at it with social media with this brilliant post welcoming Charles and Camilla to Australia. My question though, love the humour, don't get me wrong. My question is, what do Australia get back from Charles and Camilla? Do they get enhanced trade with the UK? No. Do they get any sort of priority funding to fight climate change? No. I mean, I can't really think of anything Australia get back in return for the privilege of letting these two be heads of state. Australians out there, can you let me know in the comments? Educate me if I've missed something important, but to me, these two, as they do in the UK, just seem to be draining the coffers of the hard-working Australian people.
So I just seen this video where Camilla and Charles is, I guess, on some tour thing, maybe in Australia. I really haven't been keeping up, to be honest with you. But I watched and how she was kind of like, she doesn't even give a crap about these people, man. She like literally, like, she's not even hiding anything anymore. It's like, you peasants. Like, she doesn't even want to touch them, you know? And if you've seen the video, you know. It's just like, wow, you know? I mean, again, she doesn't even show any kind of compassion. She don't show, like, she gives out anybody, right? Yeah, such a not. I can't say it. Can't do it. Sorry. Alrighty then.
Similarly, I have a little bit of sympathy for him and the fact that his wife, Meghan Markle, has been attacked severely by the right-wing British press for three reasons. Three reasons as far as I can see it. She's female, she's black, and she's successful, and they don't like it. So I can understand why he would be frustrated and want to be defensive of his partner as well.
You're not my king. The message that Charles is being sent by some protesters during his visit to Australia, where he remains head of state more than a century after the country became independent from the UK. Why? Well, the arrival of British settlers in Australia led to the massacre of Indigenous people. They're still suffering racism and discrimination, and many of them just don't want a British head of state as their head of state. They want to choose their own.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.